Hello, hi everyone. I'm glad to see you here, and we are continuing our TikToks. And today's speaker is Manas Mirzabai, and the theme of the TikTok is UI testing features and nuances. But before starting it, I would like to remind you that we have socials. Please follow us in Instagram, LinkedIn, join our channel at Telegram, and also at the YouTube. Manas, I give you the word.
Thank you, Medina. Also, hi again, everyone. Thanks for coming and joining us. Today's presentation's topic name is user interface testing, and we're going to talk about everything about related to user interface. But before we're going to start our presentation, let me introduce myself. My name is Murzabai Manas. I am senior testing engineer. I work for EPAM 2 years. In total, I have experience in testing for 4 years. And most of my projects, I tested web applications. And also, I am mentor in laboratories in EPAM. Here is the agenda. We're going to talk about, and I'm going to off-topping talk about history about a little bit about first interface prototype. I'm going to talk about what user interface testing is and its advantages, what kind of testing techniques I use usually when I'm testing UI, and what testing difficulties I face when I'm testing, minimum checklists nice to have, and I'm going to share information about UI testings, and in the end, I'm going to share my practical experience and share about common bugs in UI testing. In the end, we will have QA session where you can ask any questions related to today's presentation. Let's get started. In 1979, in Xerox Palo Alto Research Center, they invented the first GUI computer, graphic user interface computer, which name was Alto. And a young boy named Steve Jobs, he was really interested in that idea and development, and he has bought a share for $1 million in that center. And they showed him the first computer, Alto. He was really impressed. It was a really interesting idea for his company, Apple, and he asked his engineers to create computer. And his engineers in Apple companies, they created a computer named Lisa, and he wanted to make it public, but unfortunately it didn't make success because the price was high. In the left side, you can see the computer Lisa. In the right side, you can see the interface of computer Lisa. Now we're going to talk about what user interface testing is. It's a process of testing where we're making sure that product meets the requirements, specifications. And when we're talking about the UI testing, we need to remember besides functionality, when we're testing functionality, we need to remember about also three important criteria in UI testing. The first one, we need to remember usability, because when users interact or use our web application or website, they should have like easy working, easy interaction with our application. The next one is visual design. Visual design, nowadays, a lot of websites have beautiful design, which leave us them um, first impression, like good impression. And the next one is the stability, and our web application should work as fast as it possible. Why is UI testing important? Because nowadays a lot of um, websites has complex and beautiful items, diagrams, tables, which make our website beautiful, but make our testing process a little bit complex. So we need to make sure that everything works correctly. In the next page, we have interesting fact based on Google survey. And people who asked, they were not ready to wait more than 3 seconds, uh, like using the website if loading takes more than 3 seconds, like items or whole page. Now we're going to talk about the benefits of UI testing. The first point is ability to test the interface from user's point of view. It's a good advantage when you know like potential behavior of end user, how they're going to interact with our application, and you can make sure and reduce the future possibility of appearing any bugs. The next point is helps to make sure interfaces across browser compatibility. It depends on the project. If, like, for example, if your project and application or the project going to be in like certain country or region, you can choose, like, for example, 5 popular browsers in that country or region and test UI in that browsers. So also you reducing the possibility of future appearing any bugs in different browsers. The next point, ability to automate UI testing. Um, as you know, many of you know that we can automate. One of the areas of automation is UI. When you're automating UI test cases, you can cover as much as it possible test cases. You increase quality of the product, and you're spending less time on testing than manual. The next point helps to detect errors in the backend. As you know, straight connection between front end and backend. If there are something error or bugs in backend, it usually shows up in front end. So it also helps us to um, reduce bugs. And the last point, it's when you're doing all of these points, you're increasing product stability and quality of product when you're testing user interface. And next slide, we are going to talk about the techniques I use for UI testing. The first one, exploratory testing. Exploratory testing is a technique when you use without any background information about application. And one of the best benefits of this technique is that, like, for example, you joining a new project in your first day, in your first a few days, you don't know all of the requirements, but you can have a chance to test a web application from point of user's point, and you can like kind of judge and test your application as just a user. And you can see how is it usable, is it easy to work with application or interact. That's really one of the best benefits of that technique. And the next technique is boundary values. This is also one of the best techniques. Like, for example, here is a picture under the boundary values. Like, for example, we have some function where we have range from 1 to 255. And if you're going to test each number in that range between them, it's going to take a lot of time. But what you can do, you can choose boundary numbers near to 1, like, for example, 0 and 2, and also choose boundary values next to 255, 55. It's 254 and 256. So using that technique helps you spend less time, but it's also increased the quality of your testing. The next technique is equivalence class. The point of that technique, when you divide into a few groups by logic, and for example, if we're going to take the one of the group named valid, you can choose any number between 1 to 10 and test your functionality. The next technique, it's error guessing technique. It's usually when you can use the technique usually based on your experience. For example, I face a lot of bugs when I combined a few filters, like more than 2 or 3 filters when I'm combining. I face a lot of bugs. Now we're going to talk about the difficulties of testing. The first point, as you know, a lot of projects works in flexible methodologies, and iterations usually last like 1 week, from 1 week to 3 weeks, and in that iterations we have a lot of changes in development. So when we change, we have so many changes in UI, it's kind of challenging our process of testing. The next point is challenges of regression testing. Um, Regression testing, we doing this kind of testing based on test cases. When we changing items on web application, we need to update and actualize our regression test cases, which is take some time. The next point, complex element. As I said, nowadays we have a beautiful applications with a lot of complex diagrams, tables, and items, big items. So it's kind of make our testing process also complicated. And the last point, difficulty to automate. As we know, automation of UI happens based on locators, and the locators is have relation to our items. If we're going to change our items, it's also affect to our locators. So we need to update and actualize our automation test cases. So this is one of the four common difficulties when I'm facing in UI testing. Next is a next slide. We can talk about the checklist. Here is I wrote down a minimum checklist nice to have when we starting testing UI. The first one, when we have input buttons, like for example, date or currency, we need to make sure that everything works correct by functionality and based on requirements. The next one, we need to make sure that all items on forms or pictures properly visible, not only on computer and also in mobile cell phones. The next one, like for example, when you're testing password item, and usually it requires more than 8 numbers. So we need to also make sure that it's correct by functionality. The next point is checking all elements at different resolutions. For example, we have standards like 3 and 4 and 16 and 9. The next point, make sure all navigation buttons and links work. Usually I face a few times when in the end of the website, we have this, if you know, this little link for feedback, and it's actually critical for customer if some users can't read them out to leave their feedback about application. Maybe they face some troubles, so it's actually critical. The next one, make sure the page elements are loading. In that point, we're talking about the speed. It should not take long and more than 3 seconds, 2 or 3 seconds. The application must display the relevant menu items available in particular location. We visit a lot of websites usually every day, and we know we need some items. Most popular items we use, it's for example a search item, like language switching or menu, usually menu located in the left side, or search item located in the center of the website, and language switching in the right side in the corner. So it should located in certain position. And the last one, checking all kind of interface elements on different browsers. We're talking about in that point about compatibility. As I said, we need to check it different browsers that our users are going to use, so they will not have any problems using one of the popular browsers. Coming to the next slide, we're going to talk about the tools. The first one is Selenium, one of the most popular tools for automation. The benefits of Selenium: it works with a lot of popular program language, C Sharp, Java, JS, Python, PHP, and also works with a lot of browsers popular. Safari operates with a lot of browsers, Safari, Google Chrome, Opera, Microsoft Edge, and etc. And also has integration with a lot of CI/CD and other testing environments. And the next tool is Cypress. It's a UI testing automation tool. One of the best benefits of that tool is that it can have control of traffic, time response, behavioral function, also provided real-time support. The next tool is Appium. It's open source testing framework. Also has works with a lot of program languages: Java, C Sharp, Python, PHP. Also has integration with CI/CD and other testing environments. Also works. One of the best benefits, it also works with real hardwares, also simulators and emulators. And the last one is Puppeteer, is node library for API testing, high-level API testing tool, and also controlled by browser. Now we're gonna move to slides where I'm gonna share interesting situations and my experience with Bex. Just imagine this is application for booking for tickets for movies or theaters, and the function in that application is that if you choose one of the seats, for example E13, it's automatically choose next two seats. Because the idea of this function, because we usually will go into movies with our friends, with our family, and what we see next. If we're going to choose the seat F23, it's automatically chose F24 and the next seat E13, which is correct by functionality, but it may leave a better impression using our application. And I don't think it's good when friends separated and sitting apart from each other. So we need to remember also about usability. The next situation, I opened one of the biggest online shopping magazine website, and I used error guessing technique. What did I do? What did I do? So I chose the first filter is when I chose 4 stars, and the next filter I chose only popular brands and put price between $50 and $100. What we see is the first 4 items, everything correct, and then next seventh item we see the price more than we chose in the average. It's more than 100. The next situation, the same page or website. As I said, certain items should located in certain position. For example, menu. We used to know that menu usually located in the left side. Search or search item located in the center of website, and language switching in the right side, which is everything correct here. But what we see next, interesting situation. English language switching located in the end of website. And I tried to create any situations when I needed that item, and I couldn't, because we should remember that each item should be for a reason. So it's interesting idea putting that item in the end of the website and application. The next situation, grammatical errors. In my experience, I faced a lot of bugs with grammatical or translating. For example, in my last project, we have a complex application where we had whole translation of page. For example, if page in Kazakh language and you translating to English language, there might be problems like some of the words still be in Kazakh language. So we need to make sure that everything translates, everything corrects by grammatical, because it's affect to customers' reputation. The next situation, each item, form, text should located and should have a beautiful form working and interacting with our web application or website. And if some of them will be located not correct, it may leave bad impression, and which is also affect to our customers. And you can see in the left side, everything's not beautifully located. In the right side, everything located straight. So it's kind of have some beautiful form. Next situations, a lot of bugs when some forms collapsing to each other, and it's not serious for our customers. So we need to escape that kind of situations also. In conclusion, um, I chose 4 big criteria for UI testing. The first one is functionality. We need to make sure that each requirement, each function works correctly. The next criteria, visual design. It's really nice and good when you see beautiful visual designed websites and you wanted to interact or visit in next time. It leaves a like good impression on you. And the next criteria, usability. Uh, if website is complex to use or complex to visit, complex to interact, you don't want to visit the next time. So we need to make it easy to interact with our application. And the stability. If everything works slowly, you don't want to visit next time. So it's also one of the main criteria for UI testing. So that's the end. We can now have a QA sessions. If you have any questions related to today's presentations, I would like to answer.
Hi guys again, and I will read the questions. And the first question is about iOS. What are the tools to test UI UX in iOS native apps manually?
Um,
What can you advise?
Unfortunately, I didn't use tools for iOS testing, so I can you can Google it and find popular tools for testing, but might be Charles Proxy, one of the tools to UI testing. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Manas, actually, for this tech talk, for very interesting topic. And I'm continuing with the questions. Um, just one moment. Is there any tool for testing BP?
I'm sorry, come again?
Is there any tool for testing BP? Unfortunately, I do not understand what is BP. Can you explain?
Um,
Sorry, it's not the full question. Is there any tool for testing BPM tools um, like Pega, Appian, and so on?
is there any tools for testing API? Am I
BPM,
right? BPM.
BPM tools.
Um, um, Unfortunately, I didn't have that kind of experience, so I can say the answer for that question.
Okay, and the next question is when should you implement UI automation?
It depends on the project. If project going to be more than 6 months, usually you can implement automation. And also we have a formula calculation. It's called ROI, return of investment. It's is it worth it automation, and also requires high qualified engineer. And if manual testing time and automation testing time it's equal, it's not worth it. If our test cases they are not changing regularly or often, you can also implement automation on project. It depends a lot of criteria.
Okay, thank you. And the next question is at what levels is UI testing happen?
Mhm. There is in from um, other sources 3 levels, in different resources 4 levels. UI happens usually in each level. The first one unit, the next one system level, integration level, and the last one user acceptance testing level.
Okay, and also we have question, which is the easiest tool to learn how to use among Selenium, Cypress, and Appium? What is easy to learn? What do you
Um,
suggest?
you should start learning based on your requires. It depends on the project, but most of people usually choose Selenium for automation because it has a lot of benefits.
Okay, thank you. And the next question is about desktop applications. What is the difference?
Between what?
Could you could you give more information? I'm talking to the one who asked about it, about the desktop applications. And I will ask the next question. Is a grammatical error on the site critical or not?
Um, it's actually, I would say, grammatical bug. It's a minor bug. It's not affect. It doesn't have big effect to functionality of the whole system of application, but it may leave a bad reputation for our customers. So I would say technically it's not critical, but overall it's critical for our customer.
Okay, thank you. And question is about desktop and web applications. What is the difference?
Um, um, Differences in UI testing, it's there is not a lot of differences between web application or and desktop. But um, there is more detailed, and it depends on the um, application.
Okay, thank you. Also, we have question, do we need to test business logic in UI tests?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. And the next question is it a good idea to write a dedicated test framework for integration tests, tests for API?
Can you repeat, please? Question.
We have question in the is it a good idea to write a dedicated test framework for integration tests, tests for API?
I didn't write frameworks, so I can say it's good or bad.
Okay. Do you use Groovy language for UI tests? Uh, do you use Groovy plus SPO? Uh, JEP, Selenium for UI tests?
No, I don't use it.
Okay, I got it. Do you use Allure in your software automation framework? What other reporting frameworks do you suggest except Allure?
Usually when I'm testing UI, I do it manually without using any automation test tools. So
Okay. What do you think? What other tools can be helpful besides Selenium for a beginner in QA?
um, like for example, one of the popular tools, Postman. If you have API testing in your project, and especially just manually testing API or automating API test cases, you can use Postman. It's also popular besides Selenium.
Okay, thank you. Now we have more questions, and the next is the project features a lot of data, which requires both vertical and horizontal scrolling. As for the horizontal section, what can be improved? Can we test usability by adjusting the screen size?
Um, it's an interesting question.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I don't have practice in that in my experience, so I can answer.
Okay. And the next question is the boundary value testing technique relevant for UI testing?
Yes, you can use that technique when you're testing UI. Yeah,
Do you use this technique?
yeah, yeah. Usually, I use when I have um, certain functionality on a website or
Okay,
application.
thank you. What do you think must know tools for? Uh, what do you think must know tools for manual testing?
Um, it also depends on the project. If you're testing backend, you should know how to work with Postman. Um, if you testing web testing, you should know how to work with browsers, how to read logs, um, and depends on the project what kind of tools they use. And for automation, there is, as I said, popular tools like Selenium, Appium, etc.
Okay. And the next question is are there any tools you can recommend for manual tester besides the project management tools and backtracking tools?
Um, I used in my projects for manual testing Postman, SOAP UI, OpenShift for catching logs or bugs to find a reason. What else? Uh, Database, like for example, SQL, working with SQL, we used MS SQL. Yeah, that's it.
Great, thank you. And the next question is maybe you can tell about the advantages of Playwright or GDI over Selenium or vice versa.
Um, I didn't work with these tools, so I can say the advantage over Selenium.
Okay, and the next question is what of the following testing technique is relevant for UI testing? Sorry, it's the question that was already said.
Mhm.
What is the best tool for tracking test cases for automation? I use Trello, but I am not so happy with that. I am, I think that there have something better. Maybe you can suggest something.
I have experience only in manual testing. I didn't use automation tools yet. So, um,
Okay.
mhm.
What is the most useful tool to check fonts, colors, pixels, and so on?
There might be online tools where you can put information and get the results. Mhm.
Okay, thank you. So, and what are the next questions? Which is what is the difference between exploratory and ad hoc testing?
Um, Difference is in exploratory testing, you can test without um, any information, and ad hoc you can have some background information about the application. That's the difference.
Okay, thank you very much for the answers. Guys, do you have more questions? And let me check our comments. What maybe I missed something? Yes, about fonts. Please don't forget to send badges to our speaker and say thank you for the Tech Talk.
Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you. Yes, and we have a lot of comments about thanks.
Thank you guys. Thank you.
And I want to remind you that we have very interesting events later. Quest about Sherlock Holmes and villain, uh, register and find all the bugs. And also we will have global conference with very interesting speakers as well. So also register for that. It will be in May. Yes, you have the links to that. Okay, so I suppose that. Oh, we have very interesting question. What does it take to be a guest speaker on the show?
Um, can you repeat the question? What does
What does it take to be a guest speaker on the show?
um, you should have interesting be a speaker. You should have some experience, have fun, and feeling that you can share your experience in practice.
Okay, guys, thank you.
Hmm.
Register on our next events, and I suppose we can finish this one. Thank you, Manas, very much
Hmm.
for very interesting tech talk. Please don't forget to send badges. And also you can send badge for me as well as to Manas and also me.
Hmm. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, guys.